Baker Mayfield, how much leverage does he have to truly get out of Cleveland?
Leverage is a fair question, Dan, because he's under contract for, I believe it's about 18.8 million on the fifth year option this year. Like any quarterback, if you decide to carry it out into the offseason, you're talking about not having the starting quarterback there through OTAs, which are all voluntary, not there in the offseason program. If you skip minicamp, it's a relatively moderate fine of a little over $100,000 if you miss all 3 days. Now you're into training camp and you have that cloud that hovers over the organization. Do the Browns want to be a part of that, or do they want to move on? What I was told yesterday was when Deshaun Watson informed the Browns that they were out on him, the Browns were reaching out to Baker Mayfield, and they had talked with him. They had let his representation know at the combine that they were going to be examining options. But for Baker Mayfield and knowing his makeup, this is just not a situation he wanted to be a part of. So what I was told was they reached out to him and said, hey, we'll come down to Austin. We'll meet with you. We'll talk it out. We want to find the path forward. You're our guy. And Baker Mayfield's response was, no, just don't worry about it. He feels like this bridge has been burned. The time to move on is right now. The Browns told his agent they're not going to accommodate the trade request, but it increasingly appears that these two sides are headed for a divorce. And again, the Deshaun Watson decision and all the other things that will happen after that will dictate what the potential spots are.
Yeah, but what kind of trade market is there for Baker Mayfield? Like he's coming off an injured season, and didn't play well. So I see. This is where I was surprised that they put out that letter saying goodbye to Cleveland. Because if you're Baker Mayfield, knowing his makeup of being a competitor, it's like, hey, you want to flirt with him? I'm still the quarterback here. I would play this out in Cleveland, and if I played well, now I have leverage. Now you want to trade me? I can go to someplace else, and more people would be interested. Or the Browns would have to step up and extend him. But I don't know if I don't want to give up much for Baker Mayfield right now.
There's not a lot of precedent. It's happened in the league, but there's not a ton of precedent for number one overall pick, but really any first round quarterback to play out the fifth year option. So already Baker Mayfield was in this weird lame duck territory where, yes, the message would be, hey, come in, ball out for 18.8 million. If you do that, you're going to be getting paid $40 million plus in a long-term extension. If you don't, then obviously, all parties are going to move on. So you can get on board with that at some level, but then when you have this very public flirtation with Deshaun Watson, it does change just the dynamics a little bit. I mean, Baker is a big personality, right? He's going to lead a certain way in the locker room. And, perhaps on some level, when it feels like that's being undercut, his ability to lead that way, that has an effect on the situation. He's just, the feeling is, from what I was told, he feels like that bridge has been burned. He wants to move on. What the trade market would be. Again, 18.8 million is not an astronomical number for another team to take on. And Baker, 14 months ago, he was leading the Browns to their first playoff win in like 26 years. They went 11-5. I think they scored 40 points in that game. It's not like he's been a bottom five quarterback within the NFL. At his best, he's been certainly a sufficient starter for a team. And so there's a handful of teams that have unsettled quarterback situations right now. You've got teams like the Seahawks where, remember, GM John Schneider is close with John Dorsey, who drafted him number one overall. Scott McCloughan is close with Schneider, was advising Dorsey at the time. You can envision a scenario where, hey, bring in Baker, have him compete with Drew Lock. There's all kinds of different things, Dan, that could end up happening here. But you're running out of chairs. I mean, this really is a game of musical chairs. There's only so many places that guys can go, which is why, Mitch Trubisky jumps quickly on the Steelers offer for the chance to compete. There's not a lot of places that Baker or any quarterback at this point is going to be the walk-in-the-door starter outside of Indianapolis, which I imagine is going to know pretty quickly after the Watson decision what direction they're going to go as well.
Yeah, but if Chris Mortensen's source is correct that the Browns wanted an adult at quarterback and they were reaching out to Deshaun Watson, like how clueless can you be that you want an adult and your adult is Deshaun Watson?
I can't speak to Mort's reporting on that particular subject. I certainly understand why there would be certain frustrations from the Browns organization about what happened in 2021. I mean, you finally get a playoff win. You seem to have momentum. You got a really good young roster, and you just struggle throughout the course of the season. But part of it was, you mentioned it, Dan, he played hurt. And this is one of the things that I think, and this is not a defense of Baker Mayfield, it's more of a broader point. Everybody always wants to say, the guys that play hurt, they're so tough and it's so respectable. And boy, he's doing it for his team.
No, it's a mistake. It was a mistake.
When you play badly and you're hurt,
yeah.
nobody's just like, well, he's playing badly because he's hurt, but man, good effort. No, Baker sucks now. It's like, I was at the game. I think it was against Arizona where he popped the shoulder out for the second time. I mean, I thought the guy had like broken his arm. I mean, he went down, he's writhing on the ground in pain. I mean, he was playing through a lot. He was playing in the harness, the shoulders popping in and out. He had like a calf or some other issue that actually was the worst injury throughout the course of the season. That's the one that wasn't getting better. I mean, he played through a lot. Again, I'm not defending Baker Mayfield. I'm just saying anytime you got a guy who's playing through a bunch of different injuries, you have to, just like Jimmy Garoppolo last year, where he hurts the finger and then he throws a terrible interception in Tennessee. It's like, yeah, quarterbacks are hurt. You're not going to play as well. It's, you always have to take that into the evaluation. It's really about, do you feel like a Baker Mayfield can be the right leader for your team? Do you feel like you can capture what he was in 2020? Everybody was praising Kevin Stefanski. He was the coach of the year that year, in part for getting Mayfield playing at that high of a level. We've seen that it's in there for Mayfield. He's just got to do it consistently.